It's time for another project. So the last video we were working on the water system, the pump, the accumulator, the hoses, all of that. We got that done. It looks good. It's working. But to get to that, I had to take the bench out. I had to take this wood that was around the water tank out, and I found that it was in pretty bad shape. There was a lot of water damage. Things were falling apart. There'd been patches and repairs and things that weren't really holding together very well. And so I think I need to build a new, basically, frame around this water tank for the bench to sit on. And the bench, we've got a bench on each side, and they fold out into basically a full-size bed. We like that kind of original feel to the back here. I don't know, I don't have any idea what the normal framing or kind of shelf or whatever is back here to support that, and so I'm just gonna make something up. Normally in the back below the window there would be a blanket cabinet or some kind of a foot cabinet for the bed. We don't have that, so I just have a plywood shelf that I built to cover up some of the propane line and electrical and things that are back there. So the bench needs something to sit on, some kind of frame on the top here and down the front. There's a couple of brackets attached to the floor that the old enclosure were attached to, so I'll probably use those. Those seem pretty good. I want to have a block on the back of this and also on the front because these straps keep it from moving around side to side, but there isn't really anything to keep the tank from shifting forward and back, and so I want to try to make sure that it stays pretty solid. The wood that was on top of this before was attached to the fiberglass at some point, but when I found it, it just had wood screws into the fiberglass, which had broken out, weren't really doing anything. And so I need to come up with a better way to attach this board over the top to the fiberglass to give a little structure to go along with what's on the floor here. I want the whole thing to be fairly solid. So we'll need to figure that out. And I also want to have some access here on the side, maybe on the top, to get to the pump and accumulator if I need to do any work there. So I'll need to think about that a little bit too. But overall, I think it will be a pretty straightforward project. It'll be a little woodworking and construction to build something to put that bench on. Okay, I've got some wood cut. I'm using 1/2-inch plywood for this. I was able to salvage a little bit of the plywood we had before by cutting off the water damaged and broken parts. So I'm gonna reuse a little bit of the 1/2-inch plywood here. Got some new 1/2-inch plywood up here. I think it's not quite 1/2 inch, it's something like 15-30 or something like that, but it looked like it would work well for us. I'm going to repurpose a piece of aluminum that was being used on this corner before. I'm going to put it on the inside, so basically underneath this and inside here to basically build a little reinforcing for that corner, and then attaching this to the floor, reinforcing on the corner, attaching this one in the top, back along the back there. I do have a nice little hatch here. Basically this will be covered by the upholstery that goes on the outside, but it gives me pretty good access into the pump and the accumulator and all the hoses, so I think that's pretty good. I am thinking about doing some kind of a hinged piece on the top here to get some access from the top. It's not real convenient because we have the bench here that we need to be removed to access it, so I need to think about that a little bit, but we're making some progress. All right, we're on to the next stage of starting to put things together. So I have cut a piece for the top here, and I think I have a solution for the back. So what I came up with is these little guys. It's called a jack nut, and basically I have a piece that you thread in. Basically just get a bigger screw, thread that in, and as you thread it in, you hold the top and it will crush up, and this spreads out to basically kind of pinch the fiberglass in between. I used some of these on the clearance lights on the roof, and they worked pretty well. So I got some more for along the back there. Basically this squishes down and pinches between the washer on the top and this thing spreading out on the bottom to make a nut basically in the fiberglass here. So I think that this will hold up pretty well. When I put the plywood over the top here, I'll be able to just thread my screw in through the plywood, and it looks like it'll be a nice tight fit. And so I think that will be a good solution. If it turns out that that doesn't work, or ends up being tearing out or something for some reason, then I'll have to probably put some bracing underneath, and it'll be a bigger deal. But I think that that'll work. I've also got a piece of angle aluminum here that I will use basically right along this piece of plywood in the front, and then screw down to screw the one on the top. So the one on the top will be attached in the back. It'll be attached up here in the front. I've got the brackets down at the bottom for this plywood to attach that, and I think that will be pretty solid. I also have my blocks that I cut that I will be able to put. I'll attach them to the plywood that's over the top, but I'll put them just in front and behind the water tank to help keep it from shifting around. I think I will put a couple of hinges here and be able to open this up to get access. I'll have to remove the bench if I'm going to do that, but it'll give me a little bit more than just the opening over here. And so I think I've got things prepped, and it's time to start putting it all together. Alrighty, we got it all back together. Mounting the bracket on the front turned out great. Because there was not very much room between the board on the top and the water tank, I had to make sure that my bolts didn't stick down very far, but all of that worked out well. So the bench is bolted down to the frame now. We have our kind of decorative pieces back on here. This now folds down, so into half the bed. The one I'm sitting on folds down also to make a full-size bed here. So I think we have got it all back together, and we'll be ready to sleep back here next time we go camping.